Our Across the Aisle segment tonight, Democratic Congressman and DNC Vice Chair Keith Ellison raised speculation about the Democrats' plans for the tax code when he refused to deny that Democrats would raise taxes on middle-class Americans if they win back the House in November. Take a look.
The Democratic message to those working folks that you can keep the tax cut that you got from Donald Trump, or is the message repeal the tax cut?
I think the message for the richest folks who got the tax cut and the big companies needs to be repeal them. I mean, I have no idea why corporate tax rate needs to drop from 35% to 20%, why we need to essentially cut the estates tax, which only the richest people benefit from.
What about what about the tax cuts?
But what about
the tax cuts that folks got in their paychecks?
What they want to know is, how are we going to live the American dream, which is, how are we going to create a society where our kids can expect to do better than us? Nothing about these tax cuts indicates that. In fact, the working folks, quote, tax cuts, to the degree that they exist at all, are temporary, and the big companies' tax cuts are permanent.
All right, it's almost tough to blame Ellison here. After all, he was appearing on MSNBC, so he probably thought he was in friendly territory. However, his answer is telling. If Democrats didn't want to raise taxes on working men and women in America, Ellison would have just come right out and said so. But he didn't. So is that an indication that Democrats want to take more of your money? With me now, Democratic strategist Joel Payne. Joel, good to see you.
Hi, Liz. I promise I won't take any of your money this segment.
All right, Joel. How about if you beat me in a debate, you can take some of my money. We'll make that an ongoing. Bet. All right, let me ask you, and I want to get to this before you pivot to corporate welfare, before you pivot to the corporate tax rate. I want to put that talking point away for a second, and I want to think just about the working men and working women in our country. And I want to ask you, based off of what Keith Ellison said in that clip and what Nancy Pelosi just said about repealing all of the Republicans' tax plans, or the Republican tax reform, why would Democrats want to take away that tax cut from the middle class?
Liz, you know that is not what Keith Ellison was saying. That's not what Nancy Pelosi's saying. You can treat it like that if you want to. You can make that interpretation of it if you like.
What does repeal mean to you?
What I heard there, well, just let me finish. What I heard there was Keith Ellison saying, I have no beef with middle class and working class people getting an extra hand and getting a tax cut. His problem is with corporate tax rate being lowered to ridiculous levels, and to the richest of the rich getting the most by widening the income disparity gap between Americans. That's what his issue is. That's what Democrats' issue is. They don't want to take money out of the pockets of working Americans. That's not what he was saying there.
If that's not what he was saying, why didn't he say that? I mean, he was given the opportunity 4 different times. We cut down that video. The video was about 2.5 minutes. He was given 4 opportunities to say exactly what you just said, to say, we're not going to take away those tax cuts. The middle class is going to stay how it is. We're just going to target the rich. He didn't do that. I mean, if he wanted to make his point about the middle class not having their taxes raised, why didn't he promise to make those tax cuts permanent? Why did he keep pivoting away from it?
Well, I don't work for Congressman Ellison, and look, we don't always, all of us who speak on camera, we don't always have our most eloquent moments. So I'm sure he'd probably like to frame that a little differently. But Liz, if I could frame out for a second, here's how I think about this. Democrats did not support the Bush tax cuts back in 2001 and 2003. But Democrats extended the parts of the Bush tax cut that helped middle and working class Americans when President Obama had an opportunity to extend them in 2010 and 2012. What I saw from what Keith Ellison was saying and what Nancy Pelosi and other Democrats have said is, we have no problem with making sure that working Americans have more of their money back. That's not an issue. In fact, if Democrats were in the leadership, they would likely do the same thing. It was the other tax cuts. It was the other steps that
Joel,
you took
where did you
to widen the income disparity gap.
I want to see the same thing as you, but I watched exactly what Nancy Pelosi said. I watched the entirety of the interview with Keith Ellison. Frankly, I did not see what you just said. There was not even the insinuation of what you just said. There was no talk about extending those, making them permanent. What Keith Ellison actually said at the end of that interview is he said, listen, we're the party that stands up for the working man. And I frankly do not understand that argument when every single Democrat in the House of Representatives and in the Senate voted no for a tax reform bill that gave 70%, a 70% tax break to the average single working mother. I don't understand that argument.
Well, Liz, look, this is left brain, right brain a little bit here, right? Democrats and Republicans see these issues differently. Democrats had a problem with the broader package that President Trump passed. And what Keith Ellison was saying is that is not leadership. Handing out more money, handing out more corporate giveaways to millionaires and billionaires. That's not how you sustain growth over the long term. The way you do that is to make sure that you close the gap between the poor and the wealthy, to make sure that you are focusing on the working class and the middle class. That's not what President Trump did. Democrats don't have a problem with helping working Americans. It's helping
Joel, what
Americans
happened
who don't
when we
need
lowered
help.
the corporate tax rate? What happened? What did companies do when they got that money back?
Well, I'm sure you're going to point to some companies giving out bonuses, which some of them did. A lot of them put that money back. A lot of them also put some of that money back in their pocket, and that money's not going to be seen by most of the Americans.
Yeah, they invested it in their business so that they could hire
need it.
other people, so that they could expand their
That's a nice way of couching
businesses.
it, investing it in their business. And by the way, we've seen this before, Liz. We saw that this is what led, frankly, if you ask me, to a lot of the economic problems that we had towards the tail end of President Bush's term, because he did not create a balanced long-term economic growth package. That's what Democrats have a problem with, and that's what I imagine Congressman Ellison was saying. Again, I'm not him, but that's what I imagine he was saying.
No, and this just goes back to I feel like Democrats have this disdain for the amount of money, the tax breaks and the bonuses that working men and women in America got. And I don't know whether this is just a Democratic problem or whether this is an elected representative problem where they're out of touch with the struggles of the middle class, because that's what it seems. I mean, Congressman Ellison in that clip, I think he actually used like quotes when he said these tax breaks that people got as if they were worth nothing. Nancy Pelosi called them crumbs. Elizabeth Warren brushed them off. I mean, this is money that's important. It's a lot of money for people who don't make salaries as high as Nancy Pelosi and Elizabeth Warren and Keith Ellison. It is a big deal. And Democrats are refusing to say, listen, if you vote for us, we're going to let you keep more of your money. They're saying, no, we think government knows better than you, and we're going to actually take it back. I don't think that's a winning message.
Liz, look. My father's been a factory worker for 30 years. My mother works at a hospital, okay? They are literally the middle class and the working class. And those are the types of Americans that Democrats are focused on helping, ensuring that those people have more money in their pockets, but also have a chance for sustainable growth over the long term. That's what Democrats are focused on.
Joel, you say that. You say that, and I would love to believe you. I wish that we were all on the same. I wish that we were all on the same page about how this actually worked. Democrats say with their mouths that these are the people that we fight for. Yet again, every single Democrat voted against a tax reform bill that gives money that these people earned back to them, that actually gives less to the government.
It wasn't just every single Democrat, by the way. There were a couple of Republicans in there who voted against that as well.
It was, and shame on them, but every single Democrat still did. So I don't know how they can claim to be the party of the working man when they're actually doing things that take more money away from the working man. It doesn't make sense to me. Joel, I do appreciate you coming on the show. It's always fun to debate. Thanks for being here.